Welcome everyone to the first Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. Today we have an exciting program, as I think they're all exciting, but that's just me. As always, the call is being recorded and you will get a link to the website when it's posted, and a copy of the presentation deck. And I would very much like to know why or if this call matters to you. At the end of the call, there are 3 short survey questions, and please be thinking about it as you're listening. Did you learn something today that you can use immediately? How many people will you forward this information to? And what did you learn today that was most helpful to you? And we hope that at the end of the call, you will have some more information about the experts, the education, and the economic resources that are available to help your community. And so with that, I'm going to get right to it and introduce our speakers today. The topic is your industrial site ready for development? And Corrie and Campbell, Beth Johnson, and Kerri Falletti are all from the Kansas Department of Commerce in various important roles, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But let's start with Corrie Ann, who is the program manager for certified sites, and each will introduce themselves as they present. Thanks for being with us, ladies.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And I think, just to tell people, Nancy mentioned I'm the program manager for the certified sites. I'm based out of Topeka, Kansas. I've been with the department for about 1.5 years. I also am responsible for the management of the Made in Kansas program and also the management of our relationship with the Next Gen Under 30. So I was really privileged today to have the opportunity to enlist the help of some of my coworkers. Beth has a ton of experience with recruiting and being an economic developer herself. Also, Kerri was willing to join and share some of the resources that support the Certified Sites program. And really, our goal today is to just help you understand the background of why a program like this is important, and also why you want to consider getting your site ready for development. And so I want to is there anything, Beth, that you would like to say a little bit more about yourself and your background, and Kerri as well? I'll give you a chance to say a few things.
The only thing I was going to say, and I can either do this now, Corrie Ann, or when I have my time to present, but Beth Johnson, I am on the business recruitment team managing the East Coast for the Department of Commerce, but I spent over 20, because I'm not going to date myself, years in local economic development in Kansas. I'm a Kansas girl. Grew up in Sterling, Kansas, and then worked in Rice County, in Lawrence, and then in Overland Park. So all at the local level before I decided to make the jump to the state level. So I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like to have to put together the information that we're going to talk about today. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
And Kerri Falletti, like that, local level for 18 years, went with the state now for 2.5 years. So it's a great opportunity. Yes, been in your shoes. So happy to share the knowledge, ORP, and information I'll get to later. But yep, this is one of the valuable programs, and just hopefully today you'll see you've got a whole team to support. So Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully everybody will be able to see what I have here. Let's take a look. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So it says Kansas Commerce.
Yes.
And so moving right into the presentation today, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better idea of whether or not your industrial site is ready for development. And hopefully, regardless of what stage you're at collecting data on your site, that you'll leave with some useful information. When I was first invited to present, I was going to talk specifically about the Certified Sites program. Fortunately, though, we have another recording that was done a couple years back about the structure of the program, the specific requirements, and it really walks you through at a more detailed level all those specifics. And so because that is out there, and also because I enjoy engaging with people specifically on their unique situation, I figured it would be better to give you a high level overview of the topic. So hopefully, again, no matter what stage you're at, you'll find it helpful. We're going to begin the presentation by taking a look at site readiness. So if you're just at the point where you're trying to figure out what you're doing and, considering the topic, we'll give you some great pointers. Then we're going to move into, hey, maybe you're just filling out an RFI, you have a site, and we want you to maybe know some best practices and things that you should be aware of when it comes to a potential site selector visit. And then I will circle back and hopefully at that time have made somewhat of a case for the framework that our site certification program provides. And then we will wrap up with some information about what the Office of Rural Prosperity can provide. Even if they can't provide it themselves, they are a wealth of resources and they will get you to the right person. So as we take a look at identifying development potential, there's a couple of things. It seems so simplistic to be like, hey, you got to find a site, but it can be a layered process. There can be a site that looks good visibly or that people in your community thinks is a good location, but as you get going and gathering details and getting people on board, you might find that there's things about that site that you didn't know, or perhaps perspective that you didn't consider. So in the beginning stages, just identifying some viable options is a good place to start. One thing that I have really appreciated learning from my community partners that have gone through this process, they will tell you, as will the utility providers and other community leaders, how valuable it is if from the start you incorporate all those key individuals. You bring them into the conversation early. The reason for that is that no one person knows everything, and having a variety of perspective is important, but you'll also find that, especially when it comes to the utility providers, there may be things that you have not considered. It's not so they will necessarily say, no, this is a horrible idea, don't do this here. They might even have a location that they're thinking of for a variety of reasons might be a good situation for you. So, and then when you get to the process of, having a site selector come, you want that consistent messaging from all your community partners. You want everybody on the same page. So really start to finish is what you want people involved with in your community. We always encourage you to, every site is different, every community is different, and you really need to be able to evaluate early on, what are your natural resources? The end goal is to attract companies that are seeking the assets that you have in your community. So really being able to identify what are your strengths, being honest with what your weaknesses are, because for some companies, it may not matter based on what they are looking for. The end goal is that you match up with a company that is right for you. We always want to encourage people to take a look at the financial feasibility of the site, even identifying that there might be some barriers. There are a number of grant opportunities, a number of programs out there that may be able to help you, but first identifying we've got a problem. There's going to be a lot of cost in developing this particular area. And so learning right away, what some of those financial challenges might be. At the end of the day, you want this to be a good financially feasible option for the companies that are taking a look at your property. And then, of course, we always say, make sure that you're not afraid to eliminate sites right away that don't meet your objective. So, identifying a problem is not bad if it saves you a lot of time and energy on the back end. So Moving on, there's a lot of details that are important, and Beth will have a better idea about how important these details are based on her experience. Really, the whole process of gathering details goes down to the the strength of being able to show that you know what your site has to offer and being able to fill out an RFI in a timely way and an accurate way. Accurate data is extremely important. And so across the industry, you'll find that site selectors are going to be looking for details about your site, just the specifics on, what is the exact location, what's the size and configuration. They're going to want to know if there's environmental constraints or if there's wetlands. It doesn't mean that if you have environmental challenges on your property, that it will be a good option to develop. In fact, we've had some properties that have come through the program that have worked with Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Sorry. Anyway, they have worked with them and have gone through the effort to clean up the site and repurpose it. That is the whole intent of the Brownfields program. And so it really is something to celebrate when a piece of property can be repurposed for another development opportunity. So the idea is that you want to know the details about the environmental constraints, not necessarily that you have them is completely bad. Same thing with wetlands. Your workforce numbers are huge. Companies are going to want to know, exactly how many people you have within your community and surrounding communities to draw from. What is the current infrastructure? Maybe it isn't a problem that the company has to invest in that. That it would be great if they can lay it out, the piece of property out how they want it to be. So again, it's not all bad that the details are exactly maybe what you don't want them to be. It's about being forthright with what information is there for your site. And then also, just the topography and the geology, the utility capacity is extremely important to be accurate with. And then of course, the single ownership, that's something that we encourage through the Certified Sites program. And so that, really it helps eliminate any delay in negotiation if there is a serious consideration for your property. So now I'm going to turn it over to Beth, and she is going to be able to talk to you from a recruiter's perspective about some of these same items.
Thanks, Corrie. So as I mentioned, I'm on the recruitment team for the Department of Commerce, and there are 5 of us on the domestic, what I'll say, recruitment team across the United States. And then we have the international team. So before I get started, if there's anybody on this call that represents your county or your city and on economic development projects, please reach out to me if you have never received an email from us asking for site information, because we send those out statewide a lot of times. Other times we'll talk to a consultant, they will have a specific area they're looking at. But when we send those out statewide, we want to make sure that we have every county represented on our distribution list. So if you've never gotten anything from the recruitment staff asking for site information, please let me know, because I will get you on that list. So to start, there are 50 states, obviously, more than 3,000 counties and parishes, over 19,000 incorporated cities, towns, and villages. So think about that number when you receive a request from us for a site information, because that's your competition in terms of recruiting and do business to your community. So there is a lot of competition. However, if you look at how well the state of Kansas has done in the last few years, we've been very successful as well. So we have a lot of great assets and things to get us on the site selection list and to win a project. But in order to do that and to be successful, we need you to be our partner, because as the recruitment team, we can't know every site across the state, have all the knowledge about it. That's your job in the individual communities and counties that you're in, is to have that information so that when we touch base with you and say that we need something, you're able to complete the information. So RFIs can come in a lot of different forms. They might come in a PDF, it might come to you in an Excel document, it might come to you in a Word document. It might be 1 page, it might be 50 pages. And so there are so many different factors that go into that site consultants send to us that we have no control over. So just so you know, when I send you something on a Wednesday and say I need it by 5 o'clock on Friday, it's not because I put those limitations on it. It's because those limitations were put on us in the beginning. So just so you know, we're on your side. We want to be your partner in this, and we want to make sure that you help us present the best information to keep us on the list. A lot of times when we talk about site selection, we talk about how this is a game of elimination. Consultants are looking for a way to eliminate your site, your state, your community, so that they can narrow down the process in order to get to the best site for their client or the company that's looking to expand. So the things you need to think about are kind of some of those things, just basically, you know, what Corrie has already talked about, as well as what they're looking for. It's where's your location? What are the utilities to the site? Is this site suitable for the target industry? You know, if you tell me that you have an industrial site, but maybe it backs up to a residential area, we probably should talk about how suitable is that for an industrial location. Maybe it's for a light industrial location, not a heavy industrial location. Things like that that we just need to think through with you, and you need to think through with your community partners at the local level in order to make sure that you're really going after the best projects for you and for your community. Next slide, Corrie. So if you think about it, in all of our worlds, probably the most expensive purchase that we're ever going to make is our home. So think about the due diligence that you went through when you purchased your house, or maybe a lot if you were building a house. You thought about more than the cost. You thought about the taxes. You thought about the school district, maybe the transportation routes to the school or to your work, to your family members. What condition was the home in? What were the proximity to services? You know, where's the grocery store at? Where's the library at? All the things that you need, that you looked at when you looked at a house. Think of that perspective when you're talking about what a site consultant is working with a company when they're looking to make a multi-million-dollar investment on where the location should be for their next factory. So some of the things they care about are exactly what you cared about. What are the roads? What's the taxes? But then they also think about, is there rail service? What is the transportation access? Is it a 4-lane? Is it a 2-lane? Is it paved? Is it still a gravel road? What's the electric demand and what capacity is there? What's the water and sewer capacity and infrastructure? And what's the labor? And like Corrie said, a lot of times you might have a water line per se to the property, but maybe it's only a very small water line. And so maybe to meet an industrial capacity, you'll need to upgrade that sewer line or that water line. That's perfectly fine. And we understand that, consultants understand that when we send them that information. But what we need to know is that you have looked at that information. Have you looked at and studied what could the capacity be? What kind of cost would it take to upgrade the service or the line to that particular property so that they can meet what they need? One of the funny things that we hear often enough is there's a lot of water demand out there right now for some of these projects. And I had a project not too long ago. It was 1 million gallons of water a day is what the company needed to make it work. And I heard from a local economic development person, I will not name any names or locations, but they had said, oh, Beth, I talked to a representative in our community, and there's no way that a company can need 1 million gallons of water. So we're going to go ahead and submit this site, even though it only has 200 gallons of water a day. And I'm like, I don't get to make the rules, but I'm going to tell you right now that that site is going to be eliminated immediately because they do need that much capacity and water demand. They're not just making that up when they send that to us, because they're looking at the ultimate build out, ultimate ramp up. This is what they're going to need in the future. So a lot of times they're not looking at, you know, going back to the house example, you might start with your starter home And then maybe you're ready to move across town when your kids get older or when you need the new home because you've added more children to your family. When on these industrial projects, a lot of times they're looking for one location that also has capacity so that they can continue to grow. And you want that for your community because you want them to be able to continue to grow in that location. So their job is risk avoidance. So they are trying to get all the information, make sure that you've identified the site, you've done the due diligence, you've planned for the site, and then marketing of that site. We can help you from the Department of Commerce in marketing that site in terms of if as long as we know that it's out there when we are meeting with site location consultants or companies across the United States, we're going to want to know what properties are out there that are being marketed so that we can help you with presenting that information. But we also need you to take on some of that marketing on your own as well. And so we're always happy to, connect you with consultants that might be interested in that type of property if you need names and contact information, things like that, because we want you to help us help you with marketing your location and your sites. Next slide, Corrie. So I'm going to shift gears for just a minute and talk about site visits, because after you've completed the RFI, which I'll go back to the RFI for just a second, when you're filling out the information, we need you to be as specific and as thorough as possible in your responses. So putting something like to be determined or negotiable on a price is not going to be acceptable, and that's going to get us kicked out. The other thing we want to make sure is we don't leave anything blank. So if you leave something blank on the RFI when you return it to your Department of Commerce representative, we're more than likely going to come back to you and say, I really need this answered. And we can help you. Sometimes, it might be a tax information question or things like that. Feel free to reach out to us and say, hey, are you going to cover this for the state of Kansas as far as taxes are concerned? And we will. A lot of times we'll fill out the state information and we try to tell you when we send you the RFI, hey, we're going to cover sections E, F, and G, but we need you to cover these other sections kind of thing. So that's vitally important as well. But I'm going to switch gears for a minute and talk about site visits. So once we've gotten through the RFI process, once you've made it to the next round or that comes to the site visit, the consultant and a lot of times the company is going to come to your community. And we're going to help you with that, with the scheduling, with figuring out how to make this the best visit possible. So you can lean on us as staff to help you with making that possible, but we need help from you as well. One of the things that is vitally important is how welcoming is your community. Please make sure that whoever is in the room for that site visit is going to not gloss over if there's an issue about the site, but is going to address it in terms of, here's how we can make this better, or here's our plan for addressing the need for that site. As questions come up from the consultant, there may be questions that you can't answer on the spot. Don't feel bad, because the best thing to do is not make up an answer, but to say, I don't have that information right now, but I will get it to you as soon as I can. I'm going to give you a couple of a good example of a site visit and just the little things to be prepared with, and then a bad example. And so I'm going to start with two bad examples because I just think they're hilarious. We had a site visit one time, and this was not me, and this was actually not in the state of Kansas. So this is coming from a colleague of mine from a different state, but they showed up for a site visit with a company, and it was a 95-degree day outside. So it was in the Midwest. So we all know how hot that 95 can be. And they were going to take the consultant around in a non-air conditioned school bus. Not an option. So please, I know that sometimes it's hard in rural areas to be able to have all the access to transportation and things like that. But I mean, the little things you can do on that is to make sure to reach out to, do you have a car dealership in the area that might have a 15-passenger bus, or may even have just two minivans that they would let you use for the day, because we can split up the group, because as long as there's several of us and we can make sure that there's a community and a state representative in both vehicles, we're okay if you need to split the people up. But a 95-degree and a non-air conditioned school bus is not a good option. So think about that. Another example was we had a consultant show up for a site visit at a spec building, and the spec building had not had a tenant in it, had not had anybody in it for a while. And when we walked into the building, there was a whole family of mice living in one corner. Again, not a good option for when we show up, and doesn't really make the consultant feel like they're going to be well taken care of, or that their company is going to be well taken care of in the future by you and your team. So the little things to think about: go make sure that the building has been swept out, or at least try to make it a little bit presentable for when you go into the building, things like that. Just the little touches make a big deal. And so a little touch that I want to talk about is, I do have a colleague that was on a site visit. It was in more of a metro community, and it was a very hot day again. They were on a bus driving, or on a van driving around, looking at several different sites that were outside, so that it was a greenfield project. And so it was hot. And when they drove by a certain ice cream shop, there was a billboard sign, or a sign out front, that said, you know, now having our peach milkshakes for the summer, kind of thing. And so the economic development recruiting staff person had called one of their other staff members that was in the area and said, hey, can you please run by the shop and pick up 10 peach milkshakes and bring them to the bus and have them for us when we get back? And they did. And when the client got back onto the bus and here were these peach milkshakes, they were just like, oh my gosh. And we actually won that project because it was the little touches. Again, the little touches make a difference. If you need to talk to your hotel staff about how they greet people when they check in at the hotel, if you need to talk to the gas station attendant, because believe me, consultants and companies will go talk to the people in those little places to just ask them, why do you live here? What do you like about living here? And you just want to hopefully make sure that all of your team, including all of the team members that you might not think about, are all on board for why economic development makes a difference for you and for the community. Next slide for you. So site readiness, back to that. One of the tools that we use immensely in our office is LOIS, and that's the Location One Information System. All of you have access to that because the state of Kansas uses that for the entire state. And so if you do not have your information uploaded into LOIS, I encourage you to please go in and put your information into the system, because that is the first resource that the recruitment team uses. And when I say recruitment team, I mean the domestic and the international team. So there's basically 8 of us that are always working with consultants and companies. And when we get something for a company looking for a 10-acre site, or maybe it's a 150-acre site, or a 100,000 square foot building, the first resource we go to is into LOIS to just see if there's anything that already meets the specifications for this project. And the next step, and always the step that we prefer to take too, is to send it out statewide to make sure that we're not missing something, because we all understand there are things that, you know, life gets in the way and you can't upload a building that maybe just came on the market, or maybe there's a building that's going to come on the market that isn't on the market yet because you know that the company is going to downsize or maybe move, which is a bad situation, but we want to help you with those too. So we want to make sure that we are capturing all the buildings and sites that are out there for a potential project, especially sites that maybe aren't identified yet. So maybe there's a site, back to what Corrie was talking about, and what, you know, kind of the premise of this is to identify new sites. Start working with your elected officials and with your managers, city, county managers, public works staff, and start looking at what places in your community where you think the next economic development site could be, because that is what will be important to get us to the next step in these processes. Corrie, I'll get it back to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Beth. That is very valuable, and you have done a tremendous job just making the case for the Certified Sites program. And so basically, the Certified Sites program is really, again, it was built on industry standards, all the details that Beth just went through that were so, you can see they're so vitally important to being able to communicate about your site. This program is really designed to walk you through a process that helps you gather all that information. It encourages you to work with all your community partners. It requires you to validate what you're saying. So really the whole goal at the end of it is that you can present your information in an accurate way. The One of the things that we often hear from other people in the state, a lot of the times when it comes to the Certified Sites program, is they say, well, why isn't it just like why isn't there only one? Well, the reality is if you're running your Certified Sites program appropriately, the goal isn't just to have a program to check the box. The goal is to help you pull all the data together, but then you at the local level need to be able to market and showcase what you've actually done and pulled together. So there are other Certified Sites programs within the state that are run by the private sector. One program, one partner program that we often dual certify back and forth with is the Sunflower Electric program. It is a utility sponsored program. They evaluate their sites by an independent third party, but again, they have a set criteria that they're gathering details all around the same information that would need to go into an RFI. And then they're pulling that together so you have high quality data. Also, BNSF, they have a site certification program. You are also able to dual certify. Their program is really targeting and identifying optimal rail served sites. They also conduct an in-depth review of the data that is there on the site. And so it's a stringent process that they have as well. And so at the end of it, our 5 areas that are required for our program, the ownership, property, environmental and cultural, access, and community, those are all the details that they are looking at through their process as well. In the chat, I dropped a copy of our program guides, and so you can take a look at the framework, because built out in the framework, really these areas, there's 5 components to it, but there's many details that go into that. So if you decide that going through the Certified Site program that we offer at the state of Kansas and through Commerce is for you, I will just say that really by the end of it, you'll be able to, it's more than just a designation, you'll be able to effectively target industry segments for your community, and you'll know what your site advantages are. And so going through the program, at the end of it, you'll have the designation, which is actually the logo in the right-hand bottom of the screen that you can use in your marketing. And again, others outside of Kansas might not know exactly what standards we have in our program. However, if you're doing your marketing well, you'll be able to showcase those standards easily and be able to use it as a tool to communicate the information that you have collected. So whether you're targeting a company that is outside of the state or a company that is just looking to expand elsewhere in Kansas, hopefully you'll have the ability to continue to communicate the information. One thing we do with the program too is we post all of the sites that are certified through the program on our website. And we also do social posts on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, trying to highlight the sites, trying to highlight the community, and just giving another level of visibility for those particular sites that have gone through the program. The program, I will say, it is not always for everybody. And, and why I say that, and I say that cautiously because it almost sounds like I'm not promoting my own program, but it is an intensive process. And to narrow down and really focus on specific land, we have come up with a criteria that says this is the land that we're going to focus on doing this depth of research on. And so if the first thing I always tell people is like, take a look at the criteria to make sure that the land that you are looking at for certifying fits within this whole criteria. So back to the conversation about including your partners at the local level, we require that either a local government and or local economic development organization is submitting the application. And then we know on our end that it is being well communicated and everybody is on board. We also ask that the land is at least 10 contiguous acres, and it does not matter if that land is owned privately. We just want it owned by one entity. That is really important. Again, it's that speed to market, and we want to give you the advantage of being able to quickly execute an agreement or if there's an option for a project. Also, we do this program is focused on industrial development only. We are not looking at land that is used for retail or residential development. And so again, because it is focusing on industrial development, we want industrial capacity utilities at the site. If those utilities are not built out, we do require that you have a feasible plan in place. And so again, it goes back to the exploring what it would cost to have that happen. Some purchasers will not require that the utilities are completely built out. We encourage that. Maybe that's going to be a part of the agreement. But again, you really have to have the specifics and be able to defend why this is still feasible to house the development project that you're seeking. So we also require that at the very least, the land is cleared of deforestation and underbrush. And again, as Beth mentioned, hopefully you're getting to the point where you say, we can't preach enough, like the accurate details on LOIS are very important. So that is a part of participating in the program. And then also, by the end of it all, if you have the recognition and designation, you're on our website. So if you want to learn more about this, again, there was a presentation that Nancy dropped in the chat. I would love to talk to you. It's a lot easier sometimes to go back and forth one-on-one. So reach out to me, put your contact in the chat. I'll reach out to you, go out to our website and learn more about what the information is that we have out there. I'm going to transition now and invite Kerri to talk a little bit about what her office can provide, no matter at what stage you're at, if you're in rural Kansas. So, Kerri, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you. Such a lot of great information. So for ORP, if you're kind of wondering, well, how do we fit in this? Well, ORP really has been established to help rural communities in getting their challenges or issues that they're working on to overcome. So for my role, and Kelly is our other GSD, and I believe she's on this call as well, grassroots strategy developer. So we're kind of, that boots on the ground. So if a community is needing some help, we're here to come to your community, talk with you through challenges, what your needs are, connect with resources. And so for you to know that this is a lot of daunting information, so you're not alone in this. So that's what the GSDs are for. And so we cover the whole state, rural communities, counties, and there's several that just have volunteers working on this stuff. So we have so many great eco devos around the state, but for the communities that really are trying to do this on their own, we're here to help. And advocate for rural Kansas. So we serve, primarily outside of the metro counties. So the rural areas do have a partner, and focused efforts designed to aid in rural improvements. So, and I think we'll talk here a little bit more, but when you're really needing to get your community ready for site visits, or if you're thinking that this might be for you, there's a lot more work around this to get to that point. in your site readiness, certification, and site visits as well. So here to help kind of identify those that are just any other type of thing to be looking at in your community. And connects communities to resources. So commerce, we have a lot of great knowledgeable people at all the different departments of commerce. So we're here, we can help make sure you get connected where you're at with who you're needing. So, you know, if we are there and we come out and we say, you know, you really are ready to visit with Corrie, or if you're already there, then we know so Beth covers East Coast, so where we need to get you connected to get you plugged in where you need to be at Commerce and any of the other state programs. So wealth of knowledge with our team at Commerce. Workshops and education and community development topics. So we also, several of you may have done our grassroots economic development 101 and 201. So there's they're on our website, and probably they're still there really good. It's webinars that anyone can go and access. So kind of really looking now that we've been doing this for a couple of years, what other kind of education opportunities do we need to provide? I know we're partnering with Nancy on a lot of grant writing workshops and helping promote that, but what else is there that our rural communities need that we can bring together, provide workshops, provide education, and just really make that impact for Kansas. So next slide, please. So there I was talking about the grassroots economic development. So again, kind of just seeking some recommendations for newer sessions. So a lot has changed over the last couple of years. So we need to, you know, think about how I can get those done. And what more we can be doing to support the economic development people. So that is economic development grassroots. So just anybody who is, you know, we've got city clerks that are trying to figure out how to do this work. You know, if you're not sure with all of our acronyms, you can go on there and find which programs that you're needing to find out about and really be that resource. But also when we're working on getting our communities ready for growth and development, there's these two topics, and it is housing and childcare. So if you're going to try to recruit a company in and you're looking at your workforce and seeing where your numbers are, and they know that you're going to be bringing in people, but then when they look, what are you doing about housing? And if you're not thinking about that, where people are going to live, where are they going to buy a house or rent a house, then that's something that is going to be very apparent when, you know, with what Beth and Corrie were saying in your community readiness. So you've got the site, but you also have to have your community ready. So Kelly and I, the GSC's, we can come out, we can talk to your community. The housing assessment tool, Commerce has been working on getting that streamlined. So it's a really organized process that we can help walk through if that's kind of where your community is. But also childcare, these two, it just seems to go hand in hand everywhere we talk. So kind of what are you doing about childcare? How are you going to make sure that that workforce has the supports in place they need to be able to apply for the new jobs you're going to be bringing to your community? So we can also help make sure and get you connected on the right path to address childcare and evaluate where you're at. A lot of partners in that realm as well. So a couple of really important topics to be thinking about as well, kind of simultaneously as you're really working on trying to identify sites. Next slide. So a couple of grant opportunities kind of also to make you be thinking about community-wide. So Rural Champions is open right now. And that is really a capacity building. So as I'm listening to all of this conversation, I'm thinking if you're a rural community, basically if it's counties under 40,000 are eligible. So if you're eligible for RAWs, you're eligible for Rural Champions. And if you don't have capacity in your community, but you guys have been doing work and the community needs somebody, a Rural Champion might be an interesting application to submit for this, because it would grant to hire somebody to work 20 hours, $20 an hour for a year in getting this project pulled together. And there are a lot of steps. And if this is something new, these things take time. You are not going to just open up this application and have it done in a couple hours. These things take months. Like if you don't have your first phase 1 environmental done, that right there is going to probably take a couple months. So if you do kind of have that idea, but have been talking about this, a rural champion might be a really good avenue to seek to add that capacity, because then we're going to work with that person for a year and we're going to make sure they're connected, getting training, getting resources they need. So if you're interested in that, definitely reach out. And then your downtowns. So the same kind of thing we've been talking about. Several of you are already familiar with HEAL, but we have our emergency HEAL, which is exactly that, an emergency. So if something has happened and a building got hit by a tornado, you know, just any severe storms, a fire, or something drastic has happened to a building, and if something doesn't happen immediately, that building is at risk. So that'll open again. We closed June 1st bid. So that's going to be available. But then we have our regular HEAL. So this is where the most buildings will fit. So if you're trying to really clean up your downtown, so when some people start coming and visiting you, you have nicer buildings and they can see that you are investing in your community and really trying to clean things up. So that is for deteriorated, dilapidated, or underutilized building in our rural downtowns, to get that building back into use, get that facade cleaned up, get a business going in there, get some upper story housing. But really it shows to people that are going to be coming and visiting that you are really trying to get your community ready for growth and get the buildings filled and show that impact for your community. These and any of our programs are at our website, that I've got those right here. But really the main thing is if you have any questions, that's what we're here for at ORP. Just give us a call, and yeah, like I said before, Commerce, we're a great team, so we'll make sure everybody gets kind of connected where you need. So that's kind of where we fit in this. So thank you, Corrie.
Thank you so much, Kerri. I appreciate all the information. So for our participants, again, no matter where your community is at in the process, hopefully after today, you'll consider becoming more ready for site selectors, and you'll have some new tools for possibly being prepared. I hope that I've made the case for the site certification process and the organization of it that guides you through the due diligence that you need to have in order to be prepared. Please feel free to use that framework, even if you don't care to go through the whole entire process. And maybe today somebody's realized they've done most of this and it wouldn't be too much of a lift to go ahead and get certified. So hope to hear from some people. Hope that some of these resources have been helpful. I have our email contact information up here. And at this point, I know we've gone a little long, Nancy, but thank you so much for helping us get this information out.
You haven't gone long at all. That was perfect. Thank you all. That was really great information. And I'm just going to circle around on the idea that Kerri Falletti laid out there, to have a rural champion who works on this idea for you and gets it site ready. What a wonderful way to pave the road towards a site certified site. So thank you so much. And if you want to, let's see. No, just leave that up there. That's great. Does anybody have any questions for any of the ladies, any of the presenters? Got some good resources. I will put the former certified site link in the follow-up email as well, and the link to the application. If there's anything else that you think of after you get off, Corrie or Kerri or Beth, I'm happy to include that as well. Does anybody have any other things? Well, while you're thinking, I'll give you one moment to think. I'll make a few announcements. The number one announcement is usually my last announcement, and that's about the next call, but I don't want you to miss it in case you're antsy to get off the call. The next call, if you're looking at your calendar, the first Friday is the day after the 4th of July. And we don't want you to be put in the position of making a decision. We're not going to stand in your way of having a 4-day weekend. So we're moving our first Friday call to the second Friday of July to July 12th and making it worth your while. Ben Winchester has twice been a speaker on our first Friday calls. And in July, his topic will be moving in, moving out, and moving over the future of the housing supply. He's a rural sociologist from the University of Minnesota. Other things going on at K-State Research and Extension, Remote Work Wednesdays are the second Wednesday of every month. The next call is June 12th from noon to 1 p.m. and it's called Physical Health Matters with Dr. Emily Maley. And I'm putting the site in there for you to register. See how many things I can do at once. There we go. Secondly, Kerri and I are working on connecting entrepreneurial communities, a brand new Kansas effort that will bring 100 to 150 people to your small town. Applications are being accepted from communities up to 9,999 people. And the application link is in the chat for connecting entrepreneurial communities. The nature of that conference is really unique in that you just have to have a place for 200 people to have a meal and a keynote speaker. And after that, we will walk to the next location, to the workshops. Workshops should be within a 10-minute walk, and your residences for these places are within a 30-minute drive. So you can be a very small community and host this, and we will guide you through that. But the applications are due August 1st. Then K-State Research and Extension continues our grant workshops. If you go to our grant site right now, it doesn't look like there's any, but there's 3 more that are planned starting in August. And we're open to doing in-person workshops if you have a particular need for gathering people in your community for an in-person workshop. And if you'd like to contact K-State Research and Extension for any reason, one email will reach us all. Just send us an email if you have an event that you would like to promote and you'd like me to put it in the mailing that goes out to 475 Kansans every month. If you'd like to promote these events in your own social media, I can send you the JPEGs to put in your newsletters to promote First Friday, and just send an email to that same email address. Okay, you've had a moment to think. Do you have any questions, or do you have any announcements? Ron Lunsford modeled for us putting an announcement into the chat, but if you'd like to unmute and put on your video, you'd be welcome to do that too. Corrie and Kerri and Beth, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll get the recording out to everybody. I always like to leave with a thought for the day. This comes from Meredith Sloan from MIT. An entrepreneurial mindset is resilient, resourceful, and solutions-oriented, even when the conditions say otherwise. So thank you for that mindset and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.